you were talking about how your wife is from South Africa, and I
Yes.
just want to quickly change lanes really fast because this just broke. As you know, the left has lost its mind
Yeah.
while also simultaneously meeting refugees that they actually don't like.
Yep.
By that, I mean white farmers from
Correct.
South Africa who are facing discrimination, murder, and expropriation without compensation of their land.
Correct.
And these people have been there since the 1600s. If you are not indigenous to the land after like 4,500 years, what are you, by the way? Like, when does it tick over? But President Trump just directly confronted the president of South Africa with videos of his government calling for white genocide. And we've got a couple of videos here. This is exactly what this guy deserves. And the left, you should see this because the discrimination against innocent white farmers in South Africa is atrocious. It is disgusting. And it is right for the Americans to bring these people in as refugees. They are absolutely refugees from discrimination and danger. They're not even economic migrants.
Not according to the left, Sheila. These are white supremacists you're bringing into America. It's unbelievable.
Let's watch though, because this is why the world needs Donald Trump, because he's not scared. He's sitting there in his gilded palace and he is not scared. He knows the United States is the big dog and you're going to listen. So let's watch this because this guy deserves this completely.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. South African occupy land. That's who we are. Can we drop our membership from this useless parliament? Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Numbers are. Kill the poor, the farmers. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, pa.
The man of D-Day in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Suri will not be touched. They will be touched, no one. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Shoot, kill. Numbers are. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Okay, I think that's good because we've got another clip to show after this. So Trump has compiled about 4 minutes of prominent South Africans, including politicians, calling for the murder of white farmers for the crime of being productive farmers, feeding the country. What happens when you murder and kill all the farmers? What do you think happens there?
Oh,
You're going to have yourself a Holodomor style famine. Not that anybody cares. By the way, these people have real problems there. The unemployment rate is 43% in South Africa. This is after turning over the country to the socialist race baiters. That's not fixed. You cannot blame the problems of South Africa on the white farmers. They are not in power. They haven't been in power in a generation and a half. You're in charge. and you have 43% unemployment rate. And what's your solution? Kill the people feeding us. I can't wait to see how this works out.
Well, Sheila, you don't have to rely on conjecture when you say what happens. We know what happens right next door in Zimbabwe when Robert Mugabe took over that nation. And there was a white farmer replacement program. Mugabe was rewarding his thugs in the army with promises that you would get land. And they got land. They got farmland. Here's the problem. These thugs didn't know how to farm. And very, very quickly, Zimbabwe went from the breadbasket of Africa to being an annual recipient of food aid. That's what happens. This is not a black-white issue. This is when you take away skilled farmers and put people in charge that have no idea about agriculture. And guess what? The crops don't grow and the people go hungry.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
So good for Donald Trump for outing this guy. This guy is no Nelson Mandela, and Nelson Mandela is rolling in his grave, Sheila. I mean, I've been to South Africa. I visited Robben Island, where that remote prison where Nelson Mandela spent 21 years of his life. It is a miracle he didn't come out of that prison filled with hatred and revenge.
Sure.
But it wasn't that way. He wanted all South Africans, black, white, Asian, you name it, to get along, to get rid of apartheid and not pursue revenge, but go towards an optimistic future. But now this is about revenge.
This is suicidal revenge.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We've got another clip of Trump, because then he put it to the South African president, or rather a reporter did, saying, do you denounce what you saw there? Because it wasn't necessarily him. It was an avowed communist holding these massive stadium rallies. So it's not like this is a fringe thing. This is what they are crafting legislative policy around in South Africa, taking land away from white farmers in the name of, like I said, suicidal revenge for something that they didn't do. So let's hear what Trump has to say.
So you denounced that type of language in the video that you saw? Oh yes, we've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation.
He's right. He's right. These farmers are walking away from everything. They know their land is going to be expropriated anyway. But rather than stay, they're leaving to be safe. And the left, the Democrats, to their credit, they finally met a refugee they don't like.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's too bad they're not gang members with MS-13
exactly.
and wife beaters. You know, that's who the Democrats cotton on to. And I got to tell you, when President Trump says when you focus on a certain group of people and you want them killed, you're going to be arrested. Oh, President Trump, not in Toronto. For 19 months, we've had genocide chanted against the Jewish people and the cops, the mayor, Chief Demke. Nothing to see here, folks, and we'll get into that later, I think, after the break. But he's absolutely right. And by the way, I want to
just, before we move on, I want to stop and show you. Look at these refugees waving American flags. You know, they're already patriotic Americans because they want to be free and they want to be safe. They're not economic migrants. These are people who, by virtue of their skin color, their life is at risk. And calling for their death has become culturally normalized. They are treated as less than where they're from as a reaction to the actions of people who are not them. And again, the left looks at those people and says, look at those white supremacists. They don't know anything about them, by the way. They just know that they're white from South Africa, so they've got to be horrible.
You know, it's such a shame, Sheila. South Africa, like so many African countries, the promise that's there in terms of mineral wealth, in terms of agriculture, in terms of the potential for tourism.
For sure.
I mean, you look at all the incredible wild animals they have there for these safaris, and yet this is the climate there. Forget about white farmers being expropriated. The crime, the violent crime in South Africa. Lady Menzoid has a relative a few years ago. One thing you don't want to do when you go there, folks, don't wear any jewelry, because that is an attention seeking magnet. And she was confronted to remove her wedding ring. And when it couldn't get off because her finger was too chubby, the assailant took out a machete. He was going to cut off the finger or the full hand, and she was only saved when somebody on an apartment balcony started screaming hysterically, and that scared off the bandit. For a wedding ring, she was going to face, amputation of a limb. And this is a regular occurrence. So it is such a shame that my wife's, her place of her birth, is descending into this hellhole now.
Yeah. None of it has to be this way. This isn't racial justice, what we're seeing here. But when you hear the people on the left scream for racial justice, this is what they mean. They look at countries like South Africa and say, yeah, like that. We want that. When they say we're going to take the land, we're going to take what's ours, that's what they mean right there.
Yeah. And by the way, Sheila, what was the reason my wife's family in 1976 moved from South Africa to Canada?
Let me guess, apartheid.
It was, yes. Yeah. They were disgusted with it, and they decided to give up their livelihood. It was a huge sacrifice. They were living large. And by the way, interesting story. Their two destinations they narrowed it down to were Los Angeles and Toronto. And they came to Toronto in the month of July, and they went, what's with this winter wonderland stuff? It's hotter here than it is in Johannesburg. We don't need to bother with LA. And then winter came. So what I'm saying is that I never would have met the future Lady Menzoid had they come to Toronto in January, but it was July, so the rest is history.
Like so many immigrants, they were misled by the promise of Toronto. Some things never change.
We vote, they ignore us. Alberta's values just don't match Ottawa's, and they never will.